Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 327th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this battle is not fought on the usual flat featureless map. This is fought on a Nordic woodland map. I like this map because it's got big open plains that you can fight on if you want to, but also you've got wooded area. So if you want to bring barbarian troops to get the not only the snow bonus but the woods bonus as well, you can bring barbarian troops as well. That's why I like hosting on this map. It's got a bit of everything really. Okay, our first teammate is King's Conan. Conan is the founder of the King's clan here. You don't see many kings on anymore, but he is a founder of the King's clan, and he's bought the Rome Giulio faction. Let's have a closer look at his army. As you can see there, he's got 4 archer units and only 11 infantry. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there with only 11 infantry. I see he's bought the old school cavalry general, armoured cavalry general there. And there's the general there. And I think he's got 7 upgrades on that unit. But as I say, up to about 7 or 8 years ago, we always used to bring a cavalry gem. And I see that he's got 4 cavalry. And let's have a look at his cavalry. My guess is they'll be pretty good upgrades. Yep. There you go, you can see he's got 8 upgrades on his cavalry, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. That makes that cavalry extremely serious cavalry there. So there's his army. It'd be interesting to see how those only 11 infantry units do during the course of the battle. But Conan is a very experienced RTW player, so it should be interesting. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Uther, and I've noticed that over the last month or so, Uther's been experimenting with the Seleucid faction. So this is another one of his experimental armies here. And I noticed he's got, I think he's got 10 pike units there. Yeah, it's about 10 pike units there. Have a look at the upgrades. Right, if you notice, he's got 7 upgrades. That's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. And if you notice there, he's bought 4 archer units because he knows that those big 120 man pike units are extremely susceptible to missile damage. So he's bought 4 archers to cover them if he needs to be. Unfortunately, the Seleucid foot archers are very short range. Okay, let's have a look at his cataphracts. Now, if you look at his cataphract cavalry there, you see he's got 7 upgrades, gold shield, gold attack. And we call these cavalry the tanks of the ancient world. And the reason we call them that is because if you look, you can see they're armoured from head to toe. And they are really formidable cavalry if used correctly. So there's Uther's experimental Seleucid army. It looks pretty solid to me. Okay, our next teammate is Brotherhood member JGP, and he's bought the Britannia faction, and this is what I call a modern Britannia army. Those of you that's seen my old army knows that I've got a pretty balanced army of chosen swordsmen, head hurlers and chariots, but this is a modern Britannia army with mostly head hurlers and chariots. I think he's got some slinger units within this this army. But this is, as I say, a modern Britannia army here. People tend not to bring the chosen swordsmen. They just like to bring the head hurlers and the chariots. And if we look at the head hurlers here, as you can see, remember the real head hurlers used to dip their heads in lime, so even if it touched the skin of the enemy, it would cause terrible burns. Also, these heads that they throw bring a fear factor and are effective against armour. So they are quite formidable troops in their own way, but they are very short ranged. You've got to get them close up to the enemy to throw those heads. As I say, he's got a mixture of slingers and head hurlers there, but I don't think he's got any chosen swordsmen. And also, he's got what I believe are the best chariots in the game. And those are the barbarian warlord chariots. As I say, a lot of his army will be hidden in the woods there, but as I say, he's got 1 light chariot there, archer unit. You put those in the Canterbury Circle and they can be quite effective. Very good unit there. But as I say, he's got what I believe the best chariots in the game, and that's the barbarian warlord chariots. Now these barbarian warlord chariots have got 5 hit points. Really good specifications, good attack. And as I say, with the 5 hit points, that really makes these chariots serious chariots. As you can see, they've got 1 swordsman and the driver, and you've got to see the scythed wheels on those chariots. So I say they don't run amok either, which is a big advantage when using chariots. So to say, with the 5 hit points, they don't run amok, excellent specifications, and all those missile units that he's bought. It'll be interesting to see how well it does on the modern day battlefield with a modern Britannia army. And our 4th teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who's bought my usual faithful old 12 infantry and 6 cavalry army. Should be a good one for you to watch. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at Uther's Seleucid formation here. Now, if you notice here, do you remember he's got to protect those 120-man units with his archers because they're very susceptible to missile damage. If you notice, he's got his tank cavalry, those Seleucid cataphract cavalry, right behind his archers there. So if the enemy launches a surprise cavalry attack, he's got his own cavalry there to protect. If you look at King Conan's army there, can you see he's got his cavalry general out the front ready to harass and harangue the enemy. And if you notice, he's only got one pilot shield unit out the front, and he's kind of massed his archers there for better impact and effect with his archers. And here is the other team. We have RTW player Lackjack. A lot of you will know Lackjack, very good player. And I've noticed he's recently started to use the Greek cities very well. And if you notice there, he's got 20 units of Spartans. And let's see how we can get 20 units of Spartans. Well, of course, the only way you can do that is to reduce the upgrades on those Spartans. Now, we know, yes, the Spartans have got 2 hit points, excellent morale, excellent specifications. But for me personally, I think they need gold shield, gold attack on them to get the most out of Spartans. To only have 3 upgrades, I don't know what those 3 upgrades would be. 3 defense, 3 attack, or maybe a mixture. But to me, you're not going to get the most out of these Spartans by only having that small amount of upgrades. Okay, he's got 20 Spartan units, but with those small upgrades, it'd be interesting to see how well they do during the course of the battle. Okay, the next teammate is, if we can find him amongst the trees, is Brotherhood member Schemer, or 8-Ball as a lot of you know, and he's bought the Rome SPQR faction. As you can see there, most of his army is hiding in the woods there, so we may have a look at see what he's got a bit later on. Their third teammate is Brotherhood member Icarus. Now, I know Icarus has been experimenting with Carthage a bit as well, so this is one of his experimental armies. And if you see, he's got something like 13 or 14 spear units there, 7 upgrades, gold shield, gold attack, and he's got the Balearic slingers there. And these Balearic slingers, surprisingly, have got quite a reasonable range and can do quite a lot of damage. So that's pretty good to me, the Balearic slingers and the spearmen. And then he's got his 6 units of Sacred Band cavalry. And look at the upgrades on those cavalry. 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Now these Sacred Band cavalry are really good. You look at their specifications. And to put those upgrades on as well really makes those serious cavalry. That's a pretty solid Carthage army to me. Right, let's go and see if we can find their 4th teammate in amongst the trees. Right, okay, now their 4th teammate is an RTW player called Vicox. Now, Vicox is predominantly a 15k CWB player that is making a transition to the 31k game. And I see he's bought Egypt for this particular battle. And you know, there's the Pharaoh guards there. He's got 7 upgrades on them, so that's an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Now, I think he's bought the Egyptian faction because he knows that the Pharaoh archers, pound for pound, are probably the best archers in the game. And what I think he's thinking of doing is targeting Uther's Seleucid army with those Pharaoh archers. Also, the chariots are very good. The Egyptian chariots are very good, and also they don't run amok either. So, with a combination of the Pharaoh archers and the chariots, plus I think he's got, as you saw, some Pharaoh spear units there as well. Should be interesting to see what happens. But as I say, Vicox is making a transition from 15k CWB to the 31k game, so that army may be a little bit more towards CWB. We'll have to see. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle here, you can see that my arm is all the way over there on the left flank. And what the game plan was for me to run over here to my allies and for us to fight in this area here. So I've got to run all that way over to my allies there, and this is where we were going to fight. Now, our Britannia ally, JGP, if you notice there, he's got his chariots in show, but his head herders and slinger units that he's got them hidden in the woods. He's got them hidden in the woods there. So obviously he's going for the woods bonus. He's already got the snow bonus, so but obviously in the woods, the barbarians will get a woods bonus as well. But can you notice that Schemer's moving a cavalry unit out in towards the woods? And let's have a think about that. Why would he be moving? He knows the enemy are hiding in the woods. He knows all those slinger and head herder units are hiding in the woods. Why would he be moving a cavalry unit out to those guys? Surely he's going to lose that cavalry unit for no gain. New players to Rome Total War. Can you see why he wants to do that? Let's have a little bit of a clue. Can you see here he's moving some archer units out as well? So he's moving the archer units out, and he's moving that cavalry units into the woods. Now I know veterans straight away, I know what he's doing, but newer players to Rome Total War, why do you think he's sending that cavalry now? As I say, the slinger units and head hurler units are in there. He could lose that cavalry unit for no gain. Just looking on the surface here, but why do you think he's doing that? All those head hurlers and slingers, loads of units in there. It might even be, I don't know, 13, 14 units, and he's moving that cavalry unit out on its own towards the woods. But he has bought some archer units out there. Now, why do you think he's doing that? As I say, I know veterans see this straight away, but newer players to Rome Total War, this might seem a rather strange tactic to do. Why would you want to lose a cavalry unit charging it into the enemies hiding in the woods? Okay, well the reason he's doing it is because obviously you can't see the head hurlers or the slingers because they're hiding in the woods. So he's going to bring his 4 units of archers forward, and that cavalry unit is going to show him where the head hurlers and slingers are, because the moment he comes into contact with them, and there you go, you can now see them. Did you see they were kneeling down hiding? You can now see them. So now you can see them, obviously you can target them with your archers, and your archers have got long range, so those archers could cause a lot of damage to the head hurlers and slingers. At the moment he hasn't actually used his archers yet to fire, but you may well throw that cavalry unit back in. Right, can you see a lot of the Britannia head hurlers and slingers have now been shown up in the woods there, and his guys now are starting to fire missiles because that cavalry unit has highlighted, has shown where those head hurlers and slingers are. So that was a nice little tactic there. Newer players to Rome Total War. So you know, if you bring a barbarian faction, you hide them in the woods, and you might think, oh, the enemy can't see me. There you go, that's a tactic to kind of flush out hidden units. So I thought that was something good to show newer players there. So as I say here, you can see that Schemer's got, or 8-Ball's got 4 units of good archers there shooting into the head hurlers and slingers there, who were actually brought out of hiding by that one cavalry unit. Okay, you can see JGP's charging those barbarian warlords chariots forward there, probably with a view to take out those archers if he can, because he knows they'll do a lot of damage to his head hurlers. But where is the rest of the SBQR army? Are they hiding in the woods ready to spring an ambush onto those chariots, or are they too far back to do any damage? Right, there's the chariots going in, and bang as those chariots hit. Remember, those are the best chariots in the game. 5 hit points just smashed into those archers and that cavalry unit, routing them almost on impact. But if you notice now, can you see the SBQR army was hiding just in the woods and have now come out and have now started to attack. If you notice, a lot of the head hurlers and slinger units, JGP's running forward there to throw their missiles into the enemy, but with all that infantry and enemy cavalry there, they could be a bit exposed to a lot of casualties there. Let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see there, the SBQR army is coming out of the woods now. Now if I was a Brit general, I'd be moving those head hurlers and slingers back into the woods and moving my chariots away from that battle situation, because now you've got heavy infantry and all that cavalry there, you could start losing big time. If you notice here, Uther's brought his heavy tank cavalry over. Meanwhile, over on the right flank there, you can see those Pharaoh archers are being deployed there. As I say, probably looking to try and take out as many Seleucid pikemen and archers as he can over on that right flank. But as I say, not a lot really going on this right flank here. Say Uther's got his 120 man units there, which he'll want to keep out of range of those Pharaoh archers, because as we said earlier, they are extremely susceptible to missile fire, those 120 man units, so we want to keep them out of range. As I say, so that's happening there on the right flank. Not a lot happening there, but as I say, over here on the left centre, you can see that you even got Greek cities coming over towards the Britannia guys now. So it's time now to pull those chariots back and pull those slingers and head hurlers back there, because otherwise he's going to suffer loads and loads of casualties there. You can see that cavalry, SBQR cavalry, already smashing into those Britannia troops. As I say, you can see Uther bringing his cataphract tank cavalry over with a view to charge in to try and help there. And there you go, he's brought him over, and then he's decided he's not going to make contact with that cavalry there, because the cavalry has retreated back towards his infantry. As you can see, a Spartan army coming over there. You've got Carthage army moving over as well. And the last thing cavalry and chariots want to do is tangle with any spear or pike units, because they will die really quickly. So it's time for Britannia to pull all those troops back now to save as many as they can, as many as he can, with all that enemy cavalry and spearmen moving in towards them. Yeah, those Barbarian Warlord chariots, say best in game, got 5 hit points, but they still won't be any match for those spearmen there. You can see Uther's brought his archers over there to target the flank of the attacking enemy. Nice tactical move there by Uther, trying to help his allies out. But as you can see here, can you see that SBQR cavalry and infantry charging forward? Nice combination there. He hasn't just sent his cavalry forward because he knows that those chariots might well cause him a lot of casualties with just cavalry. So he's running his infantry forward as well. Nice attacking process there with from the SBQR general. Right, can you see the chariots are looking like they're going to charge in? Bang! As those chariots hit that those couple of cavalry units there and rout them. If you notice that the SBQR general is pulling his infantry and cavalry back now. Obviously decided he doesn't want to take on those chariots. Plus, don't forget those Britannian head hurlers and slingers are throwing their heads and slingshots into there as well. Right, if you can see here, I think there's an Egyptian chariot unit as well as some SBQR cavalry moving forward as well. So as I say, the Britannia general for me needs to move those troops back over to his allies. Get those head hurlers and slingers in behind his allies. Alright, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, so this is what I think, and I'm sure veterans watching this are probably thinking those head hurlers and slingers move over towards our allies. Get behind solid infantry where you can still throw your heads and the slingshots there, but be protected by the infantry. Over here you can see the Egyptian guy now is moving his archers and spearmen over to the other flank there. And I say Uther's got his spearmen there, his pikemen there, ready to engage the enemy. If you notice there, the Britannia JG Pre bring his Britannian troops, so he needs to get in behind our solid infantry there. He can still throw his slingshots and heads at the enemy, but at least another protection of solid infantry. Where they are at the moment, they're really exposed to enemy hits. If you notice here, Uther's moved his archers forward, trying to cause as many casualties to the enemy as he can with his archer units there. But as I say, with the enemy SBQR cavalry, the Greek city Spartans, and the Carthage sacred band, and some Egyptian chariots over here, it's not looking very good for the Britannia faction here. You can see that Egyptian chariot unit there, mopping up some of those slinger or head hurler units there. If you notice, that Egyptian chariot unit is now looking to attack those Britannia chariots there. My guess is those Britannia chariots are just turn. There you go. Just turn and attack that Egyptian chariot unit there. And the Egyptian chariot unit is starting to back off from those Britannia chariots there. But as you can see, the Britannia head hurlers and slinger units now are kind of spread out all over the battlefield. They're being chased by enemy cavalry and infantry there. So a heck of a lot of our Britannia allies units have now been severely weakened or taken out in a very early stage of the battle. Remember, this is a very early stage of the battle here. And as you can see, a lot of Britannia, as I say, units have now been routed. I think most of the chariot units have been routed as well. There you are, and there's the Pharaoh archers. Pound for pound, these guys are the best archers in the game. Once you've run out of arrows, you can use them as tough light infantry as well. That's how good they are. They've got long range and do a heck of a lot of damage, and that's why they like to target Uther's Seleucid 120-man units. As you can see, as I say, you can see the Pharaoh spearmen moving over as well. There. But as I say, our Britannia ally needs to get those slingers and head hurlers in behind our solid infantry there. As I say, you can still use them, but at least they'll be protected by solid infantry. As they were out in those woods, they were exposed to cavalry and infantry hits there. Right, if you notice here, can you see some of those battle damage SBQR cavalry units are kind of mopping up some of the slinger and head hurler units. If you notice, I'm bringing my cavalry over there to try and cover that. There's a couple of routing Britannia chariot units there. If you notice, I'm bringing my cavalry over here to try and help. Maybe if I can take out a couple of those battle damaged SBQR cavalry units, that would be quite good. And bang! Let's charge my cavalry in there. Let's say if I could take out those two units, that would be pretty good. But there's a lot of those massively upgraded Sacred Band cavalry up there I'm keeping an eye on as well. Remember, those were 8 upgraded Sacred Band cavalry, 2 experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack, and they've already got really good specifications. So with those upgrades on, and there's 6 of them against my 5, Possibly I wouldn't like to get into a tussle with them, so I'm going to pull my cavalry back. Right, if you notice here, can you see Uther is moving his... let's just pause the game for a second. As you can see, there's a couple of Britannia chariots have rallied. We've got some of the head hurlers and slingers back behind our infantry there, but as you can see, Britannia has been pretty well decimated by the enemy. Now that could well prove pivotal to the outcome of the battle. Right, you can see most of Uther's short-range archers have now been taken out by those tough Pharaoh archers. Okay, so Uther's pike cover, those 4 units he bought, have now been taken out, and the Pharaoh archers would like to target his pikemen now, and that's why he's running his pikemen out of range of those Pharaoh archers as far as he can. Okay, you can see that that's a pretty good move there, because as I say, once those Pharaoh archers have taken out his archers like they've done now, they will try and target the pikemen there. So there's a lot of Pharaoh archers, probably 8 or 9 Pharaoh archers, I think, from what I've seen. And as you can see here, I'm bringing my cavalry back from trying to help. There's a few of the Britannia units that have rallied and are coming back to the fold. But as I say, you can see all the Egyptian Pharaoh archers, spearmen and chariots now have moved over to his allies. Now, bearing in mind, as I say, Uther doesn't want to expose his 120-man units to archer fire. He'll probably keep his pike units at the rear, only to be brought in when it's absolutely necessary. You can see the Spartans and Carthage's Sacred Band. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if they tried a left flanking action there, because both, I think, both Greek cities normally with reasonable upgrades, and Carthage will be a big match for the Seleucid pikemen. So if they can, that's probably what they'd like to do, is get in contact with the Seleucid pikemen there. If you notice, I'm bringing my army back round a little bit there to face a threat from the enemy there. As I say, Uther's doing a wise thing in keeping his pikemen out of range. As you can see, JGP's Britannia slingers and head hurlers are there, ready to use when needed. You can see Carthage, as I say, their Sacred Band archers and cavalry, and the Balearic slingers are moving around to our left. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me if the enemy tried a left flanking action here, maybe even involving the Greek city units as well. So as you see, I'm turning my army to try and face that threat there. You can see that the enemy SBQR archers have moved up closer and are targeting. They're either going to be targeting the slingers, the head hurlers, or possibly some of our cavalry there. Because Schemer won't just obviously be firing his arrows into Roman infantry that are facing him, because he knows he won't do hardly any damage, but he will target softer targets, as I say, like the slingers, the head hurlers, or even the cavalry there. Just trying to see which direction he's firing. Probably aiming at cavalry, possibly there. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second, take stock of exactly what's happening. As we thought here, you can see that my army is now facing Carthage and the Greek cities. They're moving around to our left flank here. As I say, Carthage and Greek cities will normally be a big matchup for the Seleucid pikemen there. So I'm going to try and keep my my infantry involved as much as I can. But if you notice here, can you see there's the SBQR General Schemer's infantry was quite a bit weakened in that battle with Britannia there. And there's just some archers and some Egyptian archers over there as well. So they'll probably stay in place where they are there, in kind of a bit of a defensive mode, kind of like an anchor for their team, while the Greek cities and Carthage, who are basically still all intact, will move around to our flank. Now, can you see here Uther moving his cataphract tank cavalry towards the Sacred Band cavalry? Now, it wouldn't surprise me, there you go, if the Sacred Band cavalry decided to clear off. And that's exactly what they did. Good tactical move there by Icarus. Move that Sacred Band cavalry back out the way there while he brings his spearmen forward. As you can see here, can you see Uther has moved his pikemen there, ready to engage the Carthage Sacred Band. And if you notice, the slingers and head hurlers, the Britannia slingers and head hurlers are being brought over as well to help over on this left flank. Now, Uther knows his cavalry are well upgraded, and as we said, they are the tanks of the ancient world. And he knows that the enemy knows that as well, so they will be very wary of that cavalry. Let's just pause the game for a second. Let's say there you can see the Greek cities and Carthage are in a definite attack mode over here on our left flank, trying to get round behind us if they can, but Uther and myself have faced them. Okay, so Conan now is facing battle damage SBQR army and the Egyptian army there, which is mostly made up of Pharaoh archers and a few spear units and some battle damage chariots, I believe, as well. As I say, Schemer's SBQR army was quite damaged in the early stage of the battle. So what I'm thinking here is Conan's thinking to himself, well, there's not a lot in front of me. The Carthage and Greek cities moved off to the left. I reckon Conan's thinking, I'm going to smash into that whatever's in front of me here with my army, and I'm going to have a pretty good chance of breaking it. I've got my cavalry there as well as he's got his cavalry there, so maybe that's what Conan's thinking there. He's going to attack whatever's in front of him. And that could be a good move, because as I say, if you look there, it's mostly just Pharaoh spearmen, Pharaoh archers, and a damaged SBQR army there. So that's why I think Conan's thinking about attacking. I think that's quite a good tactical move and a good, let's say, a good strategic move there by Conan there. His army should be able to beat what's in front of him there, because those Egyptian Pharaoh spearmen, they're not, even with good upgrades on there, they're not kind of brilliant on the 31k battlefield, especially out of desert, where they're not even getting a desert bonus. As I say here, you can see the Egyptian and SBQR allies there as Conan attacks. Now if you notice here, can you see there's 5 units of Pharaoh archers shooting into our troops. Now here's my cavalry. If you notice, I've taken them out of wedge formation because I want them to move fast and I want them to hit those Pharaoh archers. Now what I'm thinking here is if I can take those Pharaoh archers out, smash through them, get in behind the enemy, Conan and myself could do a hammer and anvil attack with his infantry and cavalry being the anvil and my cavalry being the hammer. Now that's what I'm thinking there. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, you can see those 20 units of Spartans and those Carthage Sacred Band have moved down there, and Uther and myself are facing both those armies. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. As I say, Carthage and Greek cities are usually a good match for Seleucid, but as I say, Uther's got those cataphract tank cavalry out there ready to use, and the enemy will be very aware of those cavalry. So if you like, there's kind of 2 distinct battles going on here. One over on the left flank here where we are, and one going over on the right flank, if you like, where Conan's attacking. Right, as I say, what I'm feeling I'm going to do here is smash into those Pharaoh units with my cavalry and attack. If you notice, the Greek cities are moving towards my army there, but here you can see my cavalry is charging in. As I say, I want to take out those Pharaoh archers if I can, and then get my cavalry into a position where I can help Uther take out the rest of the enemy troops that he's facing at the moment. Right, if you notice here, I'm taking out those archer units. And now I'm going to start moving up out through those trees there to smash into the enemy troops in the flank of those engaged enemy troops. I just want to see clear out these Pharaoh archers so we're not getting shot in the rear by those Pharaoh archers, but then I'm going to charge on up. Let's just pause the game for a second, get through these trees. Right, as you can see here, can you see I'm going to smash into the flank of these engaged troops. Right, if you notice that Conan's general's just been routed or killed there, but he's actually acting as the anvil. Can you see he's engaged all the enemy troops, the Egyptian troops and the enemy SBQR troops are all engaged with his troops. So as I say, I'm going to smash into the flank of these engaged troops. As I say, Egypt, not on a desert map, not a great choice maybe for a 31k battle on a winter map, but we'll just have to see how they do. As I say, Conan's troops being the hammer and my cavalry coming up here, Conan's troops being the anvil and my cavalry coming up here should be the hammer. That's what I want to do. I want to smash into the flank of these engaged enemy troops. Okay, you can see that the Egyptian chariots are involved there as well, frightening our troops, lowering the morale of our troops there, but I think Conan's general's just been killed. Right, as you can see, I'm charging my cavalry here at the moment. Bang, as that cavalry smashes into the flank of those engaged enemy troops there. So I say it's a great hammer and anvil attack here between Conan and myself. Charging in here, and now we've taken out the SBQR troops and most of the Egyptian troops that are between us. So that was a nice little bit of teamwork there between Conan and myself to take out the enemy troops. As I say, nice hammer and anvil attack there, Conan being the anvil and my cavalry being the hammer there. So it was a nice combination attack there by the two of us. Okay, meanwhile, over to our left flank here, you can see my army there is being assaulted by the 20 units of Spartans there. You can see that Uther's got his Seleucid pikemen there facing the Carthage threat. And there's a lot of Balearic slingers shooting slingshots into them as well there. But I think from what I can see at the moment, it's those 20 units of Spartans that could be a problem there. But as I say earlier, I believe that those Spartans, to get the most out of them, they need gold shield, gold attack to lessen their kind of specification, to lessen their upgrades, kind of dilutes them. You know, in my personal opinion there. So I'm not sure how well they'll do with just those upgrades on. Right here you can see the Carthage Sacred Band attacking Uther's units there. You can see the Uther's long pikemen there against the Carthage shorter spearmen. But as I say, very often Carthage punches above its weight and can do a lot of damage to the big 121 man units. Right, if you notice here, Uther's bringing his cavalry out to engage the Balearic slingers, and bang! Okay, so now the Carthage general has been forced to use his Sacred Band cavalry to attack Uther's cataphract tank cavalry. Now, who do you think is going to win this little tussle? Now, bearing in mind that those cataphracts, remember, they've got effective against armour maces. Let's have a look at those maces there. You can see them holding those maces there. There you are, can see those maces. Let's have a closer look at one there. Look, you see, now those are effective against armour maces. And of course, because they're effective against armour, they can do a hell of a lot of damage against armoured troops. And those Sacred Band cavalry there are very heavily armoured. So of course, those effective against armour maces are going to do a lot of damage. And if you see already, a lot of the Sacred Band cavalry are already been routed by those cataphract cavalry there. As you can see here, Uther's turned his pikes to face all directions there to protect the rear of his troops. If you notice here, I'm moving units around the flank of those Greek cities. I'm trying to pin the forward units of those Greek cities with my infantry while I take infantry around the rear or flank. Conan's just finished off the rest of the enemy, the Egyptians and SBQR over there, and then I'm hoping he's going to come in behind the enemy here. So let's see what happens. As I say, I'm trying to pin the Spartans there with my my infantry there while I get other units in behind them or attack their flank. I've noticed that our Britannia ally has brought his slingers and head herders over to help there, but meanwhile over here you can see that most of the, if not all the Sacred Band cavalry, remember those Sacred Band cavalry had 8 upgrades, 2 experienced stroke gold shield, gold attack, and they've been routed by those Seleucid cataphract cavalry. Right, if you notice here, you can see the Carthage Sacred Band moving in on our Seleucid ally there. But you can see the Greek cities really effectively pushing in against my Roman army. But as I say, we don't like taking Greek cities on head-on unless we've got a plan. So as I say, I'm taking them head-on with some units to pin them there while I take other units round behind. You can see Conan targeting the rear of those Greek city units with his archers. And if you notice here, I'm charging into the rear of those engaged pike units there after throwing pilers in first. You can see here, see the pilers going into those Spartans. And remember, those Spartans have got 2 hit points, so they don't suffer as many damage, as many casualties from pilers as what other units do, but still cause them some casualties. Right, can you see those Sacred Band cavalry just charge into the rear of my engaged troops there? You notice that Uther spotted that and they're bringing his cataphract cavalry over to counter-attack that. Bang, as that cavalry hits. Probably going to rout those Sacred Band cavalry quite quick, I'd have thought. Yeah, you can see a couple of those Sacred Band cavalry have just been routed. Plus, Uther with those tank cavalry is engaging those Greek cities as well there. That's how tough these cataphract cavalry are, especially with the upgrades that he's put on them as well. Right, if you notice here, as I say, JGP slingers and head herders throwing missiles into the Greek cities there. And as you can see here, the Carthage Sacred Band is still trying to attack our Seleucid ally. If you notice here, Conan's brought his infantry over from fighting over there with the Egyptian and the SBQR units, and then now he's going to try and get in behind those Greek city units there. Can you see there, I'm charging my cavalry in. I'm looking to hit the flank of that engaged Greek cities unit there. And that's where I'm looking to hit. If I can smash into the flank of that unit there, I'm hoping I can rout that unit, and Bang! My cavalry hits. Almost routed that unit on impact. If you notice, I'm pushing my cavalry on through to go into the flank of other Greek city units there if I can. And if you notice, Conan's charging in right. Can you see the Seleucid cataphract tank cavalry charging in, and bang! As that cavalry hit smashes into that those Greek city units. Now remember, we looked at those Greek cities earlier. They only had 3 upgrades on each, and they have now mass routed there with all that infantry and cavalry smashing into them. Now whether they'd have held longer if they've had a gold shield, gold attack on, I'm not sure. But I'm sure that would have helped a lot more if they had those upgrades. Right, you can see here Uther's formed like a defensive box there. If you notice, I'm charging my cavalry into the rear of one of those engaged Sacred Band units there. And I think the Carthage general has just admitted defeat there. So it looks like our team has gone on to win this battle here.
Be praised.
I think the Seleucid army did very well against Carthage there. If you notice there, all the Greek city units have just been basically taken out there.
Be amazed at such a victory. The day
so I say, looks like our team has gone on to win this battle. Okay, first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. I didn't expect it to be a clear victory. I thought it might have been a bit closer than that. So, but just to say well done to everybody in the game there. Nice kills for Conan there. Can you see he's got 1,918 kills. Not far off the old 2,000 mark. So really well done to Conan there with the kills that he's got there. Poor old JGP got caught early, but still got 893 kills, so well done to JGP. Vycox, as I say, he's bought that Egyptian army there and didn't get that many kills, but as I say, he is transitioning from 15k to 31k there, so that was an experimental Egyptian army there. But really well played to Vycox, Brotherhood member Icarus, Brotherhood member Schemer, and Lackjack. Well done, guys. Some nice attacking moves there. But also I'd like to say really well done to King Conan, JGP and Uther there. I must say, at the beginning of the battle, when I saw a Britannia ally losing a lot of troops there, I wondered how it was going to go. But we did do okay in the end. I say really well played everybody game, and I liked all the different factions in this game too. I hope you found that a little bit more interesting. Okay, Spartan Commander saying bye for now, and see you soon.